final town hall of 2026. We appreciate everybody for being here. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could please stand, and I'll lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you, Rick. All right, Jennifer, roll call.
Okay, agenda item C, roll call. Councilmember Dupont.
Present.
Tao.
Present.
Harris.
Present.
Smith.
Present.
Zhang.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Boyle.
Here.
And Mayor Serrato.
Here.
Agenda item D, opening comments.
Thank you, Jennifer. Again, as I said earlier, I want to welcome everybody to our third and final town hall of 2026. This is an important part of what we do here in the city in terms of outreach, in terms of hearing what you have to say, and really trying to keep a close eye on our community and really have the pulse of what's going on. So we welcome all comments tonight. We'll begin by introducing our council members and then our city department heads as well, and then after that we'll take your input. So I'll start on my right with Mayor Pro Tem Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight to our last town hall, and I look forward to the comments that you bring forward.
Good evening, Darren DuPont, City Council Member for District 1, Southeast Merced. Again, some familiar faces, so thank you again for coming to our town halls. Look forward to a good discussion tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Fuyu Zhang, representing District 6. Yeah, as always, love to hear feedback and what y'all have to say.
Good evening, Mike Harris, Council Member District 3. Thanks for coming out tonight, and we're very interested in what you have to say.
Good evening, Shane Smith, District 4, El Capitan Dad. Welcome to our annual, small enough to be a first-name basis town hall. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Ying Pao Tao, represent for District 2.
Mr. McBride will turn over to our city manager, Scott McBride, to talk about his team at City Hall.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, council members. The city is well represented tonight. I think we're outnumbering the public by about 3 to 1. If we can get everyone who is a city employee to raise your hand, please. All right. I think you can see we got a few in the back. Police representing over here. We got Public Works, Engineering, Planning, City Manager's Office, Finance, Parks, Community Services, Housing. I know we got City Attorney's Office. We got City Clerk. We got IT. We got everybody here. If we've got an issue that we can't talk about tonight, I don't know what it would be. I'm just going to be honest with you. So we're happy to be here, happy to support the council, happy to support the community. Appreciate the robust communication. One thing I want to point out too is, although this is important for the council, it's important for us as well. Often we'll hear things, and we're not going to wait for 2-3 weeks or budget to try to resolve issues. As issues came up last night, this morning we're talking about them. Last week I heard about things. The next day we're talking about them. So we appreciate the feedback from the community. We take what we hear seriously, and we immediately go into action. And we're ready again tonight. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Scott. Appreciate everybody being here. Again, this is really important for us. It's really important for us to hear what you have to say. We can't always accomplish everything that is requested of us, but it really points us in the right direction and really provides a good North Star for us in order to direct us in terms of the things we do. So tonight, the format is relatively simple. I think many of you here have been to our town halls before. 2 big points. One is for you to ask us questions and get information from us, both from the council and then also from our city manager and our department heads as well. Also, 2, to tell us what you think is important. So I think we have a really nice format here in the theater. The stage is right there in the light, so everybody has the opportunity to go up and speak. 3 minutes each. We'll be limited to 3 minutes. We have plenty of time tonight till 8 o'clock, so if folks want the opportunity, there'll be the opportunity to speak possibly multiple times. And then also, too, at the end, if we conclude early, all of us can stick around for a bit, and we have all the department heads here as well, too, to have more of an informal conversation with us as well, too. Without further ado, let's get started. So if you want to address us, again, either to ask us a question or to tell us what you think we're doing wrong or what we need to do better, please step up to the podium back there in the light. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or what we're doing right. I don't know if that'll take 3 minutes. All right. Ron or Julene, who's coming first? Good evening, Julene.
Thank you. Bear Creek down to Walmart area. Familiar, kind of visualizing there. I've been, seems like working on this area for at least good 5 years, trying to get the graffiti removed from the backside of the sound wall. They'll paint really up high so you can, so the graffiti is seen as you're coming down Bear Creek, one direction and so forth. I called our graffiti hotline and so forth, and you know, they try their best at times, but they often complain that, well, you know, it's difficult to get to that back area, to you know, the homeless living back there, to being able to reach very high up and so forth. I did see some improvement this probably last year or so, but again, it wasn't checked up on enough. And I was just wondering, where do I go from here to try to get that area cleaned up, since it is technically city property, from what I understand.
The sound wall behind the new apartment complex between Bear Creek and
The Walmart?
Walmart along the BNSF track.
Right. The one side, they usually keep up pretty good where the bike path is, but if you go on the other side, it's just plastered with graffiti, and it's been like that for years, literally. And, you know, when you're coming down Bear Creek, I mean, that's the first thing you're seeing if you're heading east, I guess it would be, upstream.
Okay. I'll give you a brief answer real quick, and I'll turn it over to
I'll take care of it,
Chief.
Mayor.
Yeah, go
Simple,
ahead.
simple, I'll take care of it.
Go.
That's easy.
Okay.
I'll take care of it and follow up. I have her info.
Okay. So, yeah, we have graffiti abatement. We need to work with them. Again, like you said, is
I call constantly, and, you know, I've gotten to know the guy really well and
Yeah,
so forth.
I'll
and-
call him. I'll call him. He'll get it done.
okay. Yeah, we can
Okay.
work with
Yeah,
Adam.
I'll take care of it tomorrow.
Up high and everywhere. That's what, I mean, he gets the lower part
Yeah.
at times, so at the
No,
up high, he's.
The
he's high.
contract doesn't dictate that he has a 5-foot reach in his contract. He has to take care of graffiti, so that's part of his contract. So we
Okay.
pay $250,000 to graffiti abatement, so he'll take care of it.
And I'm sorry, you are,
That's our police chief.
Police chief, sorry.
okay.
I'm
And
probably
I
on
have
the
one
other
other
side of the
question.
lights.
Go ahead.
What are they building on our street right by Target, in front of Five Below? It's new construction. What is that going to
It's,
be?
turn it over. Go ahead.
It's a dental office, so it's Aspen Dental.
Okay, thank you.
And Frank, you want to jump in and say what are the other plans for new pads and new construction along both the mall property, both along our street and along Olive?
So using Aspen Dental as the reference point, if you just go a bit south, Pollo Campero will be constructed south of that. That patch will be breaking ground probably late Q2 of this year. You still have Ulta, Five Below, Tilly's, and there's one more, and I'm drawing a blank on that fourth one that will be opening up in the Sears part of the revitalization that's going on there. Along Olive Avenue, you're going to see In-N-Out Burger, Raising Cane's, have storefronts along Olive Avenue, and then you're going to see more of the facade improvements that will be heading to the west of the mall side, and then on top of that, Vallarta Market will be one of the users that will be going on in there. So that's part of their overall restoration, what they're trying to do within the Merced Mall area.
Thank you, Frank. And Julian, too, yeah, work with the chief on that. Thunderbird Maintenance, Adam Reed, is really good with our graffiti. He's excellent, cares a lot, cares more about cleaning up graffiti than anybody you'll ever, maybe except for you two guys, who, all the work you did back there, too. But, yeah, we can work with him, too, and if it's, yeah, part of it, too, is planting. I know they've made an effort to plant bushes along there, too, as well, but it's not, that's a big wall, and right next to the train track, so I think it's a prime area for graffiti. Chief, what about enforcement, catching those taggers? What kind of difficulties or challenges or luck do you guys have with that?
Well, it's always, I guess I'm supposed to stand on this X. Should I look this way, or which way am I supposed to look? I'll look back here. So yeah, graffiti, we've really tried to work at getting graffiti. I think you all remember that there was a gap in 23, early 24. We had no graffiti abatement, so we spent most of 24 trying to get caught up. I think we met over the catch-up phase. Adam's been caught up for a while, and I know Captain Dabney's here and calls him quite regularly. We've seen a huge reduction in the calls for service, and we're doing good, but you know, we don't always know everywhere. So if I just need to know, and I can call Adam directly, and there's been maybe 3 or 4 instances I can think of since I've been here where we've had some issues, and I've called him directly, and he's been wonderful to deal with. And usually he has no idea. He's a fantastic businessman, and he'll usually get right on it, and I don't have to call him ever again. So I'll get in touch with him tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll be great. But we've sent out teams. We have enforcement teams that have gone out. We have gotten really advanced this year with technology. You've probably seen blue light cameras all over the city. We put our blue light technology out. In fact, we met with a new vendor, and we're meeting with our distributor next Wednesday, I think it is. We have a camera system now that we have people monitoring it 24/7, and if we see illegal behavior or the potential for illegal behavior, they will speak to the individuals through the camera speakers and tell them, you know, this park is closed. Riley Park's one of them. This park is closed. It's after hours. If you don't leave, an officer is going to be deployed. And we're seeing some really good compliance with that. So technology's kind of been our friend with some of that. And we've had a lot of conversation internally about adding cameras to the Bear Creek area. We've had a lot of cool discussions, but technology is what technology is. We need infrastructure power in there. We've teetered on the idea of doing some solar, you know, technology cameras out there, but they're limited. I think we all experienced, you know, a couple, 3 weeks of no sunlight here, so everything we had out solar died. So if we have some technology out there, we could put some cameras out there, and we've talked about doing it. We're building all our cameras in-house for approximately $1,200 a camera. They're $10,000 cameras on the open market. We're building them. We're deploying them. We have dozens of them out there, and we'll probably do 20 or 30 next year is our goal, if we can.
That sounds great. Yeah, our graffiti contractors are very proactive and very energetic, too, and I think we saw it, it was a year or two ago when we kind of went without it for a short while, and you just see the amount they have to keep up on, so they do really good work.
Mayor, can I?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe one thing we can also think about is a possible art project for that area too. I know our murals have been very successful of deterring people to come out and tag, so maybe that's something that we can look at. I think another thing that the speaker mentioned was sometimes it's hard for the graffiti abatement team to go out because of homelessness in the area, so that's a barrier for them to go out and do their job. So maybe it's something that just needs to be arranged with PD to go out there.
It's funny you say that. Where's Jennifer? I have been begging for a Welcome to Merced mural there because that's where the train comes in.
Let's do it, yes.
Yeah, so the train goes along that line. I ride the train. My wife rides the train in because sometimes it's easier. The mayor rides the train in, but on that wall, I've envisioned when we get caught up on some of our mural, we've had this conversation, so it's kind of funny. We talked about that, seeing if we could do a Welcome to Merced mural on that wall for the train patrons that come in, kind of know you're in Merced. It'd be a perfect spot for one, really.
Sounds good. Police chief, a musician, and an artist. Got it all. All right. Anyone else? Okay, on the topic of graffiti, anybody else? Here, none.
Okay, speaking about trains, my name is Dan Holmes. I've been in the city or in this area. I live in the county, but I hope you'll forgive me for that. But I've been here 52 years, so I've been around a while. But probably about 15 years ago, I approached Mr. Quintero about the thought that the best place for the high-speed rail station was near the intersection of Highway 99 and Campus Parkway. I think it provided a better connection to a future bus route, maybe even a light rail up to the northern part of Merced. At that point, Mr. Quintero said it's too late. The decision's been made. Obviously, the High-Speed Rail Authority is now rethinking where that station ought to go. The only support I got from anybody on the council at that time was the then mayor, Stan Thurston, who said, hey, that's a good idea. But it doesn't tear up downtown. It's easier to plan. Had you moved forward with that suggestion 15 years ago, we could have done some planning rather than some reacting to what the High-Speed Rail Authority is now seeing as a more logical and cheaper solution on building, because of the fact we're not displacing businesses and the property is much easier to acquire. So I come forward in support of the high-speed rail's position on maybe taking a change and a rethinking of the location of the station near the Campus Parkway and Highway 99. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We had a robust discussion, to say the least, on that topic a few nights ago, but just in case anyone from the council wants to add to it or say anything. It's certainly a big topic of conversation recently. Councilor Smith, you're ready to.
Sure, why not? Gotta fill air.
What we do.
I appreciate Mr. Holmes' comments. I don't want to butcher his background, but he's sort of not telling you the fact that he's a retired transportation engineer. So I take his comments as carrying a lot of weight. I'll say I support the concept of looking further at what a Southeast Merced station would look like. I think that it's important for us to stay a part of that conversation, because for no other reason than the alternative, is we get no station and we're off the map. And I think 2040, 2050 Merced is going to want us to have had the chance to be on the high-speed rail map. So, but I also see a number of other benefits that I mentioned on Monday night's meeting. So I support the direction you're hoping we go.
Will? I agree as well. I think the High-Speed Rail Authority, I believe it was in November or something, went to one of the meetings, and they started kind of suggesting things that made us think, maybe that's what they're wanting to do. And then in December, I believe, they came with a formal proposal finally, if I'm getting the dates right. And then we just had our meeting a little while ago. But I think, for a lot of the reasons you stated, and just echoing what Shane said, I think cheaper and faster for them, which is a big deal. And if it's cheaper and faster, that puts us on that makes it a lot easier for them to get to us. And if they're easier to get to us, then it's much more likely that they're going to build to us. Connectivity with Yards and Yosemite, UC Merced, last mile connectivity through MCAG to downtown to other spots. There's a lot we can do. Opportunity to really master plan that whole area, especially with the pending annexation and with the sports complex being built. And then downtown, I think Shane sees it firsthand in Fresno, and there too, being down there a lot. You see 10 plus years of construction down there and what that's done to their downtown. So there's a huge opportunity for our downtown if it was downtown, but there's also a massive risk as well. If it goes bad, it goes really thoughts. But I think, yeah. All right, anybody else? Who's our next speaker?
Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline Zhang. I'm a resident here at District 6 at Bellevue Ranch. I'm just here as a concerned member of Merced. I just want to start off with my main problem here is with Bellevue, specifically the stretch that connects G Street to Lake Road. It is a very dangerous road, not only for drivers, but for pedestrians and cyclists. I say that as a driver who commutes there, who uses that road to commute, but also as a cyclist. So that being said, I know that UC Merced does have a current plan. Their latest statement that I found public on their website is that there is a plan for 2027 and 2028 to test and assess certain strategies on what kind of bike path or extra lighting that needs to go there. But I just think that's too late. There was already, issues like car accidents and things that I've witnessed myself. I've only started to use that road for 6 months every day for my work. For 6 months, I've already witnessed all sorts of accidents, whether it was a car accident, people swerving off the road. I've seen people scootering on that road, which is not, the road is really not in good condition for that. Even as a driver, there's a lot of potholes on there and everything. So yeah, that being said, my question is, what are we waiting for? Because there was already an incident where someone was struck and killed in 2021. So As a driver, even people with cars are very unpredictable on that road. So how can you, as a pedestrian, be predictable? As a cyclist, we're always telling each other to be predictable because you don't know what the cars are going to do. But that being said, even as a driver, I'm scared on there. Trucks go there all the time, going to UC Merced, transporting stuff. I work at the construction site there. I see all the huge, heavy freight loads that are using those roads, and that is not suitable for pedestrians, UC Merced students, that is, to be using that road to get from their homes or homes in Bellevue Ranch to get to the UC. Following that, I do think there is already a successful model that's been put in place that Bellevue Road could really benefit from, and that is the bike path that is adjacent to it on Lake Road that connects Merced Station to the UC. I think that is a very successful bike path, and we could just try to model after that for Bellevue. So yeah, my closing thought is that as an engineer, we like to say that we don't hope that things will happen, it's that we plan for things to happen. So I really just want to elevate these concerns to you all and to just have a safer Merced, especially for the students and people who use that road every day.
Traffic safety is a huge issue all over town, something we deal with and hear about constantly. That stretch, Bellevue from Lake G, I don't know who'd be the best person to, there's actually a pretty complex, and I'll turn it over to Scott for the reason. I'll save myself from yakking like I always do, but there's, yeah, you give Mike a break here, but you have, recently in the city with AB 3312, you have UC Merced working and the $4.2 million grant to build out a project out there, and then long-term, the Bellevue section of the Merced Loop system. So,
Yeah.
turn it over to Mr. McBride.
No, Mayor, you're correct. I think part of the issue there is there's not enough right-of-way to do a Lake Road bike path. So that's part of the issue. As development occurs along Bellevue Road, we'll get dedication for bike path. But right now, the roadway is the roadway width. And so you mentioned something found on the UC Merced website for 2728. And so UC Merced has actually leveraged funding. I think Matt and Shane, I think you guys were part of the team that were able to leverage some funding from MCAG for a local share of funding that was necessary to activate a grant, which we've been working on. And they're still seeking city support for that grant to make this work. So we're planning to include this in your budget request for next year to have the local resources for this to work. And it really is kind of a test to see what can work. But the reality is you only have so much right-of-way there to work with. And so I think they're coming up with something that tries to separate the pedestrians from the roadway to the best they can, given the constraints of what's there. The solution long-term is exactly what you said, which is a separated bike path. But you don't have that today, and you won't have that until we have development that provides that right-of-way to do that project. And we'll get there as we do the annexations, but it's not there now. It will get there once that occurs. So that's kind of the intermediate fix. We've got engineers too. We got a couple of them here in the room. I know they've worked on this and they're aware of it, but that's kind of big picture how this is getting pieced together. So completely understand the need for safety. The universities are working on this. We're here to support them, but that's kind of the context of what we're working with for the time being.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for your comments. Again, I know it is an issue of infrastructure and all that stuff, but I just want to remind people that this is still an issue and that it just doesn't blow over. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Good, Councilmember Jean.
Yeah, definitely heard similar concerns as well. As we know, off of Bellevue, there's no lights, there's no sidewalks. You've seen people walking down just on the dirt, right? And then on top of that, cyclists going down, and then you have cars right behind them. It creates a very unsafe environment. That being said, I think we need to also focus on the M Street transit hub. I think that is definitely a way in which we could reduce traffic on Bellevue going to the UC, is to encourage people to use the bus that's off of the transit hub. And so I think that's another step as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I appreciate the comments. It's one of those issues that we spend time on that nobody notices because it's, number 50 on the list, but I think you're right. For North Merced residents and UC students, it's a huge issue. So I guess what Scott said is we are planning, but it's kind of moving at government speed. And I think one thing that you can do and other people can do is make the Bellevue bike path a regional priority, kind of keep it in our mind space, because some of that funding, a critical component of the funding comes from Measure V, and those dollars have to have a credible argument for there being a regional impact, right? And there is pushback among some of our partners for using those dollars for that purpose, right? So, I mean, I think UC Merced is a huge economic engine. It's a major job source. And, who really wants to take a brave stand against pedestrian and bicyclist safety? Not me, right? But we just kind of have to keep talking about it because it's kind of the reality of Merced grows. But Bellevue, as important as it is kind of an orphan road. I mean, it was made part of the city, this legal statutory fiction to annex the UC, but there's county property on either side. And I think the county is just as concerned about the safety issues, right? But the way it works is we have to wait, as Scott said, for development to come along, for the right-of-way and for development to create the opportunity and the dollars to build the bike path. So the plan is in place, but I'd like to talk about kinetics. The speed is slow, and I think it goes faster if we keep talking about bike path on Bellevue as a regional priority that has to happen.
Anybody else? Couple answers real quick. It was a county road, and then when we annexed it pursuant to AB 3312 not long ago, so it's been county. And then like a lot of other infrastructure that was built, it was built to county standards. It was built a long time ago for a relatively low intensive need. And then when the UC was built out there, then all of a sudden Bellevue became a really important road and a serious road. So that really changed the need and the use of Bellevue. And also, too, it's being built to county standards out in the county. And then when we annex it, now it's our issue as well. It's called a dumbbell or shoestring annexation, just having that part of Bellevue. In early '24, the UC secured, I just finally got my phone to get going. It was a $3.2 million grant to do kind of temporary bike pedestrian improvements there. Requires a local match, as Shane mentioned. I believe the Merced County Association of Governments contributed $300,000. Still requires some more money as well to get there. That'll be kind of a quicker build, somewhat temporary, but kind of permanent, if that makes sense. Separated bike pedestrian corridor, which is very much needed, like you say. So there's millions of dollars committed to it already. And then the long-term plan after that, and this is when the funding comes, is to build out Bellevue into a much bigger, more organized road with a separated, dedicated bike path, much like you see on Campus Parkway or other major streets. Campus Parkway has a big wide road, and then a bike path, which is probably 50 feet plus away from the main road. So it won't be that far apart, but it'll be separated and much safer. But that's going to be, it's years off, and that is a very, very expensive big project. But in the meantime, we got this grant, and hopefully we get that thing going relatively soon. All right, Mr. Wendling, we're stalling, so because we know you're going to tell us everything we're doing wrong. So
I'm not even tapping my foot. Council, the staff, and everybody, glad to be here. Rick Wendling, District 6. Just a comment on graffiti removal. I'd like to suggest that when we're rolling in the bucks that we think about asking our contractor about dry ice removal, because if we look around, it doesn't affect very much at all the substrate underneath the graffiti, but I'm sure it's more expensive. But when we look at the graffiti removal process in our wonderful city, is we're looking at blotches, rectangles usually, of off-colored paint, something that we could get that's fairly inexpensive, but rarely is there any kind of effort to make it blend with the paint, the color that's already there. So something to look at down the road, along with bike paths. A comment on the high-speed rail, and an anecdote, sort of, if I can. Many of you remember the town hall meeting that we had when the high-speed rail was originally proposed as a $6 billion proposal to put high-speed rail in. So, well, we all know now that it's over $100 billion and we haven't any track. There's no way that we're going to actually drill a tunnel through the Tehachapies. It's just not conducive to inexpensive tunnel boring. And so if we think about driving around, the purpose of a high-speed rail is to make it inexpensive to get from the Bay Area to Los Angeles. My original argument was, well, in those days it was Southwest Air or whatever they call it. For $80 you could fly to Los Angeles. Why would you do that? To spend $135 on a train ride down there when you can drive it for whatever. Doesn't matter. So high-speed rail has become a boondoggle, and I think that instead of trying to put a Merced station somewhere different rather than tearing down all those buildings, how about we not continue with high-speed rail? I understand that money flow is a consideration for city council because the tax revenue isn't there, but you seem to rely on grants. Many times I have admonished you to push back to the legislature to control their spending.
I think that was the
Am I done?
The 3 minutes are up.
That's okay. I'll come back.
Yeah, we give
Thank you.
time. Yeah, sounds good. We'll see you back in a little bit.
How's it going, council, staff? So my name is Humberto Sandoval, for those that don't know me. I have a couple concerns I'd like to voice pertaining to neighborhood infrastructure. So the first concern is, and I've actually previously been in communication with the chief with regards to the damage caused to sidewalks by new home developers. So I live in Bellevue Ranch. I purchased a home it's probably 2 years in June, from Stonefield, and have an issue where adjacent to my property, our sidewalk is damaged, and it kind of led to kind of a spiral involving Public Works and engineering, and saying that I had caused the damage. But we looked at Google Maps before my property was even my home was even built, and the damage is there. So what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to voice is if we can figure out a way to hold builders accountable. I think that damaged sidewalk shouldn't be the burden of residents or city, especially since builders are currently working through. There's things going on there, and we're seeing these damaged concrete. And I understand that concrete cracks, but I'm not talking about cracks. These are like sledgehammer-like splotches on this concrete that are damaged. And so I think it's a real concern. We have a lot of kids that are learning to ride their bicycles, moms walking their babies, and it's a tripping hazard. It's an issue, and it's honestly not something that I signed up for when I bought my home, right, to have a messed up piece of sidewalk. So that's something I was hoping we can maybe look into. Maybe we can look into something like some sort of bonds that builders can place as developments come through that can be, given back if, infrastructure is, good to go. Or something like that. Maybe we work with the Planning Commission doing something like that. The second one is with regards to the semi-trucks and trailers that park in the Bellevue neighborhood. We have a lot of trucks that kind of park up there. And we currently do have an ordinance with regards to the semi-trailers. It's ordinance 10.28.290. And it basically states that vehicles over 10,000 pounds gross weight can't be parked unless they're being worked on maintenance or some sort of issue like that. But I feel like the ordinance is very vague and doesn't allocate a certain time frame, which I think would be a lot more ideal. And so I think it'd be nice if we can have something with regards to that. So.
All right, first, anyone from the council want to address either of those concerns, sidewalks or else big rigs and trucks in Bellevue Ranch? I think, what if we go, Chief, you want to start with the trailers and the enforcement, or if anybody else from the PD would want to do that? And then, Scott, you or somebody else want to address the sidewalk issue and the potential for recouping dollars from the builders through bonds? Chief.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any of my staff wanting to come up here, so I guess I'll take it. So yeah, we're happy to issue citations for tractor trailers and residentials. That's pretty standard vehicle code violations in most cities. Is they're not allowed in there. Obviously, sure. They do deliveries and things like that, but they're not to be parked there. So I think you have my email. I'm pretty sure you have my email. Just email me where they're at, and I'll get them taken care of.
So I know that's kind of with regards to just an inform, but like I said, the ordinance doesn't specify a certain time frame. It does specify like they can be there for repair, but there's no time frame for what a repair can look like. Because I can say, oh yeah, I'm working on my car. Right? I have the '76 Chevelle hanging out. I don't know if there's even
we got your 3 minutes already. So you can come back again, but we'll
I'll work with the city attorney on that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll need maybe potentially an ordinance update, and then we'll get you an answer on the sidewalks. Is there either Joe or Scott or anybody detail we can provide on the sidewalk issue and recouping damages from buildings?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm not finding that section, but we'll track it down. I mean, unfortunately, contractors have to deliver materials to the job site, right? So they have to bring in trucks, and so I do know that Daryl. There's a whole process where a subdivision is responsible to be maintained by the developer until it's accepted by the city. So there's a process that we go through, and we work with engineering and public works to make sure that improvements are installed to standards and they're proper before we take them over. And if there's damage or things are not done correctly, we will, not accept it until it's done. This instance sounds like we may have accepted it and there was damage that occurred afterwards. And so that becomes more of a challenge. Like once we've accepted it, it's the cities, right? It's the cities. And so I can tell you that there are times when we have utilities are a good example. We'll have I'm going to bring it up because it comes to mind. Race has been doing work in the community. They damaged a lot of our materials. Race has actually been very responsive when they damaged our materials, our infrastructure, to go out and fix them. That's an example, right? And so if we've got a contractor that's damaged materials or damaged our infrastructure, there's no reason we can't make them responsible to go out and fix them as well. So, I mean, that process exists. That's a relationship that we can work through. It sounds like the builder for the subdivision that's trying to build homes damaged the improvements. Okay, we can work with them to make that happen. So I think there's a relationship there that we can work with. So I don't know that we need to create expansive ordinance updates. That's more of a let's work together and try to not make this happen again. Because ultimately it's the improvements that are going to build the neighborhoods out they want to try to build homes in that are valuable to them. It's really, undermines their ability to build homes and sell the homes. But we have to be honest, like they've got to bring in framing and materials to build out the neighborhood, so they go hand in hand. So I think we have to kind of approach it at that level. We can definitely look at the ordinances. It's something that we need to address. We can look at that, but that's kind of how I see that this needs to be looked at.
We got the tools, but it's just a question of we got to know about it, and the work's got to get. Daryl, anything to add? You're ready to jump on.
Yeah, in addition to what Scott had provided, we're updating our current city standards. And as a response to, I think, the situation, we're going to be thickening the requirement for the sidewalk beyond the driveways. The driveway's a little bit thicker, so you never see the cracking in the driveways because it's a thicker section, but then it skinnies down a little bit in the sidewalk. So we're going to thicken that up to try to avoid this from happening in the future. So.
Thanks. Anybody else from the council?
I want to hit back on the bicycle path along Bellevue. The majority of the right-of-way of the property that fronts Bellevue on the south side is owned by one or two major developers, one of which has been real active in the community on the Lucky Lady. If you would potentially, when they develop, we know they'll have to dedicate the additional right-of-way for the road. Potentially, staff could approach those property owners and ask for a dedication now to get started on construction of an off-road path. And, you know, I think Bright owns the one at the corner, and then Lucky Lady owns at least 1.5 miles, 2 miles of that. So that those are people that could be potentially approached. There's a couple of small areas, including one that Christian Life Center owns, until you get clear down to the intersection at Lake and Bellevue. There's about 3 houses in there. You may have to go some eminent domain on that. But approach the property owners and say, hey, we want to build a bicycle path. Are you willing to dedicate the right-of-way now for that path?
We've got to hire you back as a consultant or something.
I spent my first 3 years out of school for the city of Merced, and I'm not a very good public employee. I have a tendency to express my opinion too often.
We appreciate you doing it here. Yeah, it's going to go well. Who's next? Mr. Cook.
My name is Ron Cook. I live on Evelyn Avenue here in Merced, and I have 2 questions I'll try to ask quickly. One, I don't know if this is the proper forum, but hey, I might as well give it a try. I'm a member of Merced Garden Club, and 2 years ago, we, by the zoo parking lot, we did some landscaping there. We planted latanum to give it some color between the path and the parking lot. We also did some other plantings, and every year we need to go in and we have to prune and cut back the latana. And the latana has grown to the point where it's mature now, and when we go in this February, we were wondering if the city could help us as far as after we do the pruning, if the city could help us remove the green waste. Because I don't have any way of getting rid of the green waste. So that's the first question. And the second question is, I was wondering if the city, I know that every time I see a tree come down in the city, I kind of moan, and I was wondering if the city keeps any, like does Angel Nuez keep track of how many trees are being removed? I'm sure they're being removed for a good reason. But does the city keep statistics as how many trees Angel's removing and how many trees are being planted so that we have an idea of where we are as far as keeping our city green? And maybe if those statistics are made aware to the public, there might be more of a movement to help the city plant trees. But I was wondering, does the city keep track of that? How many trees are we removing this year and how many are we planting? So 2 questions.
I think the short answer to the statistics is yes. I don't know. Who's here? Oh, Juan's here. Perfect. Go ahead, Juan.
Good evening, Council. Yes, we do have statistics of every tree that gets trimmed, removed, planted, and I don't have them in my hand, but yeah, we can get them to Mr. Cook and to you as well. And in regards to the lantana, that's not a problem. I can get Mr. Cook's information, and I'll contact them.
Thank you. Ron, if you come to council for the Arbor Day proclamation, which I think is coming up pretty soon, we always have a proclamation, and they have the exact number of trees in the city, generally in that proclamation. Okay. Yep. Like 40. But yeah, there's quite a bit, and the tree canopy is very, very important. And we have, years back, we had a grant, and we inventoried every single tree in the city. So there's and use that too and also didn't just inventory the types of trees, but use the grant to inventory their condition as well. Those were during the drought years too, so it was a lot more very different analysis then, because it really had an eye towards which trees were doing well in the environment. Now that we've had a lot of wet years back to back, it's been a little different, but still it's really important to plant those trees that are drought tolerant, that can deal well with the climate. Anything else? Chris, anything to add on the zoo? Shaking his head no. We'll work. Yeah, and Ron, though, as Juan said, we'll get with you on the lantana removal. Good. All right, anybody else? Trees and the zoo and the garden club. All right, Mr. Wendling.
Hey, really quickly, I want to thank everybody on staff for making such a good job on the Merced Mall. It's looking really sweet. And I think it's Carter's is the one you couldn't remember. It's looking good. Now, let's start working on the streets. I understand that housing in this state has got a great priority and the grants keep tumbling down for a better, less expensive housing. But I want you all to know that the problem lies with Congress that keeps spending more money than it takes in revenue, and therefore creates the inflation that makes the houses so damned expensive that nobody young outside of millionaires can buy a house these days. Anyway. Sidewalks. It's not the new construction where the damage, because in my section between G and M and north of whatchamacallit, begins with a C, we have damaged sidewalks. It comes from maintenance using the sidewalks to move their trucks that are breaking the corners off of these things. And they're getting, if they get repaired at all, they get repaired by an asphalt patch. So when you talk about the contractors having long-term, long-term responsibility for maintaining the sidewalks, we need to enforce that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So on the mall, streets and sidewalks, with the mall too, I think Dr. Frank, if you want to share too, or anybody else, sales tax numbers too. We've recently had a pretty good report that you forwarded to us, or Venus even. Some of our, you want to, yeah, let's get Venus. She's dying to talk. So. Her finance officer, Venus Rodriguez. She's
finally third meeting I get to talk. Just kidding. Yes, we did have recently an update for sales tax. From a cash perspective, first quarter so far, we're actually up almost 11%. So first quarter is your July, August, September. So that's quarter over quarter on an economic basis, which means that they pull all the money out and kind of put them where the quarters where they belong, right? It's more of a 6% increase. So we are seeing some positive trend there. I know in the last few years it's kind of been leveled out, and we hadn't really seen, we've actually seen some very minor decreases, but not these good increases that we just saw. So hopefully it'll continue for the rest of the year. I know part of the update was that automobile sales were up, but they think that might level out for the rest of the year, that what we were gonna see in big sales there have probably already happened. But hopefully we'll continue to see, and we haven't captured the mall opening yet, right? That comes in the next quarter, so hopefully the next report will also be positive.
That'll be really interesting to see what impact the mall has on.
Yeah.
All right. Streets. We want to talk about streets. Mr. Harris? Talk about roads.
Sure. Roads are in awful shape and they're expensive. 1 mile of full reconstruction of an arterial road is $2.7 million. State's not giving us money. The feds aren't giving us money. It's a battle just to keep them to the point where they can be maintained. Because once you fall behind on the maintenance, then you fall into that full reconstruction trap again. So again, we don't quote me these numbers because I'm a little fuzzy on them, but in 2007, we had like 22 people in public works dedicated to roads. Then after the recession, it was down to something like 12, and now it's not even back up to 15 or 16. So we're behind, and it's a priority with everybody. It's a priority with council. It's a priority with staff. It's just finding the money to get it going. But you can be sure that it's high on our radar.
Yeah, roads are a top concern. Roads are probably a top 3-4 issue in town for sure. You make a good point though, Mr. Wendling, where the state and the federal government have their priorities, and there's kind of the big pie of tax dollars and who gets what initially, and the federal government gets what they get, and they can print money. They got to different story, a little advantage. State gets what they get. Local jurisdictions get their share. You have certain dedicated shares, and you have certain things that come down, like you said, in the form of grants. And it's up then to the state or the higher levels of government to prioritize these grants and to say, we're going to have grants for this and grants for that. And they don't always have, point being, there's not a lot of, there's some grants, but there's not big, huge grants like that for local roads. Whereas, as you mentioned, housing, there's a lot of housing grants, and we've had hundreds of millions of dollars. We've had a ton of success getting these affordable housing grants, probably $200+ million worth of grants over the past few years. But so it's just it's an interesting point. It's a good point you make, where the state and the federal government can make their priorities as to make their priorities in terms of where they fashion how they fashion their grants.
So, I mentioned about pushing back to the legislature. That's a difficult thing, I understand, because you've got other things to do. Being city council is not what you call a supervisorial position where you're donating your time pretty much. However, how many of you regularly write Esmeralda or Ana or anybody else in the legislature? You can write your polite letters and take over and say things that, like I don't say. I'm fairly direct, but I'm not rude to the people. But we have to push back because we can't change their priorities for them. They have to look inside. So as I said at the recent council meeting, I think y'all, including the legislature, should, before they do anything during the day, they should repeat their oath of office. It's critical because we're supposed to be doing things constitutionally and protecting the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I don't think I'm an enemy of the Republic. Thank you again.
Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
So as always, Mr. Wendling gives us a lot to talk about. I really appreciate it. I'm glad he's back. Where to start? Like Matt said, and I think everybody intuitively knows this, I mean, we drive the same roads. It's one of the most visceral interactions people have with their government is when you hit a pothole or a road is difficult to drive on, But it's all balanced from up here. We're doing our best with, as Mike said, limited resources. Unfortunately, sometimes when you hit a stretch of road that's pretty bad, that just means that we're picking up garbage and we're funding police officers and firefighters instead. It's not that we don't know that it's there or we're satisfied. But I'm happy to keep having the conversation. We're doing our best. There's always a question about where to put the resources, and then when we have money for roads, which road do we do? I want to give a shout out to our team, and I'm not going to pretend I'm the expert, but to Mr. Wendling's theme of pushing back, there's also a little bit of trickeration. Some of our major road projects, like Yosemite and downtown, believe it or not, some aspect of that was actually stormwater or water infrastructure. As Matt said, that's a priority for the state, and there's money for those sorts of things. So if you have to tear up the road to get to the pipes and then you put the road back, well, it's a little bit cheaper to put the road back then, right? So our team has been really good about finding ways to stretch dollars, and I've been very impressed with that. There's also city-county partnerships. I mean, Darren and I thumb wrestle all the time. What's worse, Mission or McKee? But McKee has the benefit of at least being on a city-county border. So those two agencies are going to be working together to at least fix that. So everybody hears the community talk about roads. Like I said, it's balanced, and we're doing our best. It's important to keep hearing that message, though, so it just kind of keeps everybody involved in focus. And to another point Mr. Wendling brought up, do I write to Ana, Adam, and Esmeralda? Probably not in the sense that you mean, but I think they all have very open doors. They also have something that we do not have. I want to be very clear. We do not have staff. So like I can talk to Kartik. I've done karaoke with a guy at the Star Club. So we have the benefit of being able to interact with them and have those entrees. But in terms of priorities, it's tough. Being in the Central Valley is tough, right? If high-speed rail didn't come to Merced, there'd be 3, maybe 4 state-level congressional elected officials who would scream at the High-Speed Rail Authority. If the authority keeps spending money going to Merced and it slows down the train coming to the Bay Area or LA, they've got 30 or 40 elected officials screaming at them. So, you know, we have to continue to be smarter, faster, wiser, more prepared. And it's not always easy, so I appreciate, you know, you recognizing that sometimes we got to kind of have a different discussion at higher levels.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback, there's been, at least this year, a lot of road and sidewalk infrastructure that has gone into the city and trying to make progress on that. I think a lot of us have looked back at the council and the city as a whole and said, let's get back to basics, which means streets, sidewalks, sewer, gutter. Just in District 1 alone, we've completed a multi-use pathway that connects 2 schools. We've worked on crosswalks and sidewalks around Don Stoll Elementary, and that's again just some of the projects that we've been doing throughout the city. So we know it's an issue. Like Councilmember Smith said, we drive the same streets and the same roads across town, and we feel the same potholes. So we're trying diligently to find that funding, either through CMAQ grants as well, to hopefully help in that infrastructure piece. And it's so far been helpful. You know, if you go to the city council page on our website, there is an Excel sheet of kind of our priorities of infrastructure projects that we want to do. And there are priorities, and it'll show you the different funding sources that we're trying to leverage to complete these projects. Well, in all of these priorities, we're still $3.6 million in the hole of not being able to complete the projects. And these projects are not all the projects that we could be doing in the city. It's just priority projects that we think are the major issues and the most used roads within the city. So it's definitely on our radar. We're definitely trying to continue to accomplish those infrastructure projects. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, a lot there. I think we all talk all day about this, but you know, sidewalks, for example, I think at one point last year we had roughly $5 million in sidewalk project alone going. The project that Councilmember DuPont mentioned, connecting Golden Valley to Weaver, the Motel Drive path as well, a number of other projects, both in kind of north central Merced, south of Olive and some of the old county areas, also southwest Merced too, a lot of sidewalk projects going there. Maintaining our roads is probably, Darryl will probably give me a more exact number, but probably just to tread water is probably a $20 million a year endeavor, just in materials and labor costs, just to tread water. Because roads are, you build the road, it's never going to get any better than the day you build it. It's going to start deteriorating. We do it a variety of different ways that we've had, you know, we obviously have experts on staff. We got our roads teams that go out every day, fill potholes, fill tens of thousands of potholes every year, tens of thousands of potholes. We have major reconstruction projects, Yosemite being the latest. That's a $4+ million project. McKee is coming next. I think R Street relatively soon behind that. Portions of R Street. McKee is a multi-million-dollar project. R Street, 16th to 18th, or just south of, I guess whichever one gets designed first, coming soon as well. Again, multi-million-dollar project. We probably have funding for, or we probably spend about half of that 20, maybe a little less than that on roads, which also begs a really interesting question too when you look at local government and how local government finances itself. Some things for local government are very well funded. They're very important and very well funded. Other things are important and there's no kind of dedicated funding source. So when you look at it, it's complex in that regard. Things like water, sewer, garbage, prime local government things, very expensive, but they're very well funded because you have your water, sewer, and garbage bill. So that takes care of a lot of those things. Roads is different in that there's not necessarily a dedicated source in a lot of ways. We have kind of a patchwork of funding. So it doesn't, like water, sewer, garbage, those are fully funded because we set your water bill to match the expenses. So it gets really interesting, and I mean, I'm sure Eunice could talk to you all day about that and how to piece all that together. But Roads is one of those, and then Roads has to fight for general dollars with police, fire, parks, those things which are obviously, crucial life-saving things. Daryl, I'll invite you to make a few comments if you like about it. And then, and Juan too, the asphalt zipper too. We have the major reconstruction process, basic maintenance. We just did a project along 16th Street, doing all the crack sealing that preserves the life of the road. Main part of 16th Street, you see all the crack sealing in there, and then the asphalt zipper as well, which is being used to redo kind of bigger stretches, smaller patches, but bigger stretches. But
Yeah, absolutely. One of the challenges too with the annexations we have through town is it's exciting to see all the expansion and the opportunity we have, but when we inherit a county road and bring it into the city, you can ask Juan, it may be an inch thick of asphalt on dirt. A lot of these roads are in very poor condition, so every time we annex all these acres, we bring in all these streets that don't have sewer, and some of them may not even have water, or the water needs to be replaced. There's a whole lot of expense that goes into Public Works, Juan's team, and engineering team to try to bring those back up to something that's drivable and that's safe for the people. So that's another one of our challenges. But you're right about the, we're looking at $50 to $60 million today if we wanted to tackle everything once and get everything back up to speed and fix all the streets around town. We just don't have those revenues yet. So in my experience for doing this for 30 years, we were waiting on the federal government to give us some type of fiscal help. We did that back in 2010, I think, Frank, Prop 1A, ARA funds. There's all kinds of different programs in the past where the infrastructure bills came through, and that's what we needed to infuse $20, $30 million into the street program. We just haven't seen that lately. So we're struggling along and trying to keep up. We're falling behind, even though we do have the new zipper, and you can see Juan's out there doing some great work with that. But we're just having a hard time keeping up, but we're doing our best.
Juan, anything to add?
I'll be brief, Mayor. Yes, with the new zipper that we got late last fall, we started to doing some projects. We have to, shut down during the weather, during the winter months, and then we're working on. We have a list of locations that we want to be working during the, late spring and summer. Also, I want to add that, I think it was 2 years ago we also got our crack fill machine that, with these two pieces of equipment. Help us get caught up on some of the deferred maintenance. Again, in the past, I think you mentioned it, we were doing a lot of potholing, which was pretty much the only maintenance we were doing. Now, with these two pieces of equipment, help us, I guess I want to say we got more tools in our toolbox to do some of our maintenance, to work on those good roads that we don't want to let them, deteriorate, right? And then stay on top of the maintenance and just keep working on it and trying to maintain those good roads that we have, and while using the asphalt zipper on those other sections of roads that we can use it to, extend the life of the road.
Good.
Can I hop in on roads?
Yeah.
Sorry, for you, go ahead.
Councilor Zhang and then Councilor Smith.
I agree. I think streets and roads come up a lot to council. It's one of the things that our residents, they go through every day, right? And I think it's important, like, road maintenance is a never-ending endeavor, right? And so I think along with this, it's also important to think about how do we reduce damages to the roads? And I'm thinking in terms of, as the city continues to grow, we're going to have increased number of vehicles on the roads as well, and that's going to increase damages to the roads. And so as we continue to go forward and plan out the city, I think it's important to think about how do we reduce the number of single passenger vehicles on the roads? How do we improve our public transit infrastructure? And not just simply always think about how do we continue to repair year after year? Because it's only going to get worse as more and more people are in the city. So I think it's a two-pronged approach here.
Councilor Smith.
Since we're free associate on roads, I thought it was a good opportunity to raise publicly some constituent questions I've gotten on roads. And Yosemite in front of Rayleigh's, I think it was originally announced that construction would be done in October. We're now in January, it's still ongoing. So I've gotten the question, what's going on? Wonder if Daryl Jordan or somebody can explain I won't call it a delay, but why are we still working on Yosemite?
Well, the good news, Councilman, is that the paving crews will be out this Friday and first of next week to get those lanes back open again, so we can finish that up. So that's happening next week. One of the delays right now is we can't pave on certain temperatures, and we're in the coldest part of the year right now, so we have to wait till there's no rain on the horizon and that the temperatures are at a certain point that we actually lay the asphalt and it'll stick. So it's kind of a hit and miss. We're just looking for gaps in the weather and the conditions so we can get it finished up. But it should be done shortly.
So you're saying it's simple physics?
Physics, yes, sir.
Okay. Second question, this actually comes from County Supervisor Lloyd Pereira. So in honor of District 6, the bridge on West Bellevue, just north of the M Street traffic circle, I guess we annex it as just inside the city limit, but there's an old county rural bridge. The approach to the bridge on either side is cracked and indented, so you kind of have this experience going over the bridge. I'm doing a horrible job. I can't give you coordinates, but I think you probably know what I'm talking about. Is that on our radar screen? Is there any? Yeah, okay. See, you got to ask the transportation engineer. Is that on our radar screen? Is there any plans to maybe ameliorate that before it can be replaced completely with the new homes coming in?
I'll defer to Scott on that.
Councilmember, are you talking about the one that's just on Bellevue Road, right over the Black Rascal Creek? Is that what we're talking about?
It may be the creek. It's near El Capitan High School.
Ferens
Creek?
Ferens. Yeah, we had a fee program for years collecting per home impact fees for replacement. I think we've been working on that for quite some time. So I don't have a date, but I know it's a project.
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, I think we're doing a whole bridge replacement project is what the plan is.
And so it just goes back to the theme. We're waiting to fill up the account. Is that going to be a slow go until all the residences come in to the south of there?
Anytime you're dealing with water and creeks, and I know we've got some folks here that care about creeks very importantly, about bike paths and everything else, it's extremely complicated. You take a simple project, a simple issue, and you multiply it by 100. And so consequently, the permitting, the environmental becomes quite complicated. That's part of the issue here. So that is a project that we've got on the books. We've got some funding for it, but you're right. I don't know that we have the full funding, but it's definitely something we've been collecting money on a per home basis for. It's also in our fee program. So when I say in the fee program, that's our developer impact fee program. So we've been collecting per unit in Bellevue Ranch, but also citywide for that infrastructure. It's got to be widened and it's got to be raised. It's got to be both. And so that's part of what we're working towards.
It's like a lot of other things we've talked about. We're aware of it. We're working on it. It takes time.
I think what you're hearing tonight is you've got the dual issue of you got to maintain what you have to keep a certain level, but Merced's also a growing community. So you've also got to plan and do things that need to address future growth. So you've got existing deficiencies and things we got to do to kind of keep up with the needs that go forward. And the reality is new development can pay for a good fair share of it, but it's not all on them as well. So it's a complicated issue.
All right, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Darrell.
Just following up on that, is there any way to just do a quick patch on that section? I have heard complaints about it as well.
We can definitely take a look at that. If you're hearing that, we'd be glad to look into that for you. Juan and I are going to be spending a lot of time next week looking at similar issues, and we can add that to our multiple list for next week. So we'll be glad to take a look at that for you.
Thank you.
And Jerry, actually, too, I have an unanswered email from a constituent I got to respond to, so I'm glad Shane asked that question. But do you have a date or an estimate as to when the Yosemite project will be finished?
I hesitant to give you an exact date because it's been sliding, as you well know. I know that the intent is once they start paving next week is to continue till they finish unless they're shut down by weather. So it could be, we're hoping by end of next week, the paving will be done.
And the project will be completed?
There's a few more utilities that need to be relocated as far as the signal goes, but the lanes will be back open and running, so.
Okay. Yeah. So then potentially as early as a week?
That's correct, weather permitting.
All right.
50 degrees and rising. So as soon as we hit 50 degrees, we're laying pavement.
So you got to look at your weather app.
Yep.
And if you're seeing weather dropping, that's not a good sign. So when you got frost warnings, that's usually not a good sign.
So all that fog we were getting in November and December really hindered us.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so speaking about roads and then developments as well, also wanted to kind of voice, I think this is an issue we're already aware of, emergency services transiting from the south side of Merced to the north. You know, it was a couple months ago, I was stopped at the train tracks, and it was so unfortunate to see an ambulance stuck at the train tracks on G, trying to go up G, I'm assuming going up to Mercy. And so I would assume we're looking for a solution of maybe doing an underpass or overpass. And I think that was, for many residents in the South Merced, an option with high-speed rail, but now that kind of may not be. Just wanted to voice that concern and see kind of what we're doing to pursue some sort of funding, whether it be with working with, I don't know, Caltrans or something. I don't know. That's just a big thing. I think it's of concern as well, especially with the growth we're seeing in South Merced, all those new builds. Stonefield, D.R. Horton, they're all building down there, and you're seeing a big influx of residents that are unfortunately going to have to drive up through G to get up to emergency services. So, yeah.
Chief Wilson, you want to jump in?
Okay, so regarding emergency response, we do maintain pretty consistent coverage of the city. There's always times of drawdown when we get extra busy, but generally speaking, we always try and keep resources south, central, and north because of the two railroad tracks that we do have dissecting town. So it's a high priority for us. We're always maintaining that coverage throughout town, and then we have alternate response routes, right? So now we have the undercrossing on G Street. We primarily use G Street if we're going north because we know that we're not going to get stopped by the tracks now. And then we also have from Station 51 to get south, we can come back, go to the highway, and go over the highway and then get off. So it does delay our response a little bit, but it's just ways around it. But it is something we do maintain daily as far as coverage for fire engines. I couldn't speak to the ambulances per se. That is a private company, but I know they do spread their resources out and try and keep them balanced as well.
Chief, say hypothetically if you were picking somebody up at the hospital, South G Street, or picking somebody up to take them to the hospital, south on G Street, and then there's a train on the UP line between 15th and 16th, what route would, say if, for example, there was a train blocking the tracks?
Yeah, so they can go around. It depends. It's kind of a decision you have to make right at the time. Glen is one that we often get stopped by heading north in town. We get stopped by the trains on Glen. So we have to make a decision, look at the train, see how fast it's going, how long does it, take a look, see, is it slowing down, is it speeding up, and then we have to make a decision. Is it faster to come back and go around to Yosemite Parkway and come back? So it's kind of decision dependent. Sometimes your best choice is just sit there and wait and let it pass, or call for additional resources to come from the other side.
Yeah. Mr. Brett?
Mayor, it's kind of a long-term planning question, actually. That infrastructure is not planned right now in your general plan. There's not an undercrossing at G Street that's part of a general plan. So that's something that I know you're working with a local citizens group. The circulation element's part of your general plan, something that can be looked at. But right now, in your current general plan, it's not part of that. So it's something that could be considered in the future. Obviously, if you identify that as an important piece of infrastructure, we need to then set aside a certain amount of the cost that you want to decide is appropriate for. There's a certain impact for current development, and then perhaps a portion for new development to try to create a fee program for it so you can collect funds for it. It'd be very expensive. Obviously, you've got the complicated nature of dealing with the railroad for construction as well. So I mentioned anything in a creek being complicated. It's twice as complicated dealing with the railroad as a creek. So there you go.
Yeah, it could be a great project, and a lot of people talk about it, but again, extremely expensive to do an undercrossing in that area. And it would impact a number of other businesses and facilities too. Mr. Harris, do you have anything to add for your career in emergency medicine?
28 years as a paramedic, train tracks never scared me because the hard fact in Merced is if it's a critical trauma, it's not going to Mercy. We're going north, and we're usually going by helicopter. If it's a cardiac arrest, then there is literally almost nothing that can't be done by medics that is going to be done in an emergency department, with the exception of blood gases. The protocols we used in the field are the same that they used in the emergency department, and we pretty much had a philosophy of win it or lose it on the scene. Didn't waste any time stopping CPR and moving to an ambulance. If it was in a house, we ran the code in the house. If it was on the street, we ran the code on the street. And if we did get in an ambulance, we ran the code on the way, and if the ambulance was stopped, the code didn't stop. So I know we always say seconds count, but in a case of a cardiac arrest, the treatment continues. And if we're driving to the hospital, the treatment is the same as if they were in the hospital. So I've been stopped by trains numerous times, stopped by traffic numerous times. Believe it or not, traffic doesn't melt away just because lights and sirens are on. You know, sometimes you get stuck. And the treatment continues. So it's not really, in real life, a big problem. It's just practical.
Good segue too, Chief Wilson, too, if you want to just talk briefly about our paramedic program as well and all the great progress your department's been making under your leadership to add paramedics and advanced life support to our fire service.
So, one of the challenges we've seen was over the last several years after the COVID pandemic was a shortage of paramedics in the system. So one of the things that the Merced Fire Department done and the City of Merced has done with support of our council and our community is move our level of emergency services from EMT or basic life support to advanced life support. The difference is instead of all firefighters being EMTs, we have some firefighters that are now cross-trained to paramedic level, providing that advanced life support care, what Mr. Harris spoke to earlier. Currently, so just so the community understands, the difference between an EMT and a paramedic is very great in the training. The training for an EMT is about 160 to 180 hours, and the training for a paramedic is about 1,600 to 1,800 hours. So it's very significant, and their capability is much greater in the field. Many more medications they can administer. They can identify things like heart attacks and things like that in the field. They can administer medications for those, advanced airways, and different things like that. Very beneficial for stabilizing patients in the field and then getting them to the right resource, the right hospital. So for the Merced Fire Department, we have been growing our program. Currently, January 1, 2025, we implemented our first advanced life support engine company out of Station 53 on Loughborough. We chose Station 53. It's pretty simple. We look at the stations that are the busiest, and that's where we place our paramedics. So we have one paramedic at Station 53, 24/7. Station 51 in Central Merced, 9090 16th Street. We have our second, that was our second ALS company. And now, as of January 1 of this year, we implemented our third advanced life support company out of Station 55 on Parsons. And we have currently a total of 11 paramedics and 10 more in training. And by Q2 2026, we should have paramedics at every single fire station in the city of Merced. So that is great because when we do see times of surge or delays due to hospital demand or different things like that, flus, things like that come through our community, our firefighters can provide advanced life support in the field. Keep in mind, this is not paramedics transporting in an ambulance. There are firefighters that are also cross-trained as paramedics, but when we do have those shortages, we can utilize basic life support ambulances from AMR, and we can actually transport into whatever destination they need to go to, whether it's Mercy or Turlock.
Thank you, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
I had actually one constituent question as well, too. The just north of here along G Street, It'd be on the west side of the road. There are a bunch of, because of the new development, the Farron's Creek development there's a bunch of power poles that are kind of almost like in the middle of the road. Jordan, have you seen those? On G, just north of here along G, along the west side of the street. Okay. Okay. Good answer. There we go. Good question.
Councilmember, Mayor, we should have asked Nathan Alonso yesterday when he was at the town hall about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we missed the night.
Yeah, because I got a couple complaints from folks who were indicated it looked like and it does. It looks like a significant hazard, but just waiting for them. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. He's high. All right. Anybody else?
So before she gets to the podium, I have to excuse myself, unfortunately. Our town hall last week was during my birthday, and that's one thing, but today is my little girl Selena's 15th birthday, and she is here waiting to get taken to dinner. So I appreciate you guys carrying on. I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm going to miss your question.
That's okay.
And appreciate everybody's comments and thoughts today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
I will.
Is this thing on? Yeah. Hi, I'm Anis Lady Sandoval, the other half of the Sandovals. My question's pretty simple. I was wondering if there was like a page on the website where we could see all the development. I know there's a lot of development that's happening in the city, like the Aspen Dental. And I usually find myself having to go on Facebook and looking for you, Mayor, to see what you posted, be like, oh, what's coming up next? So I was wondering if there was a website that can kind of keep us updated on those new developments. I know a lot of like economical developments with like downtown, but then also with like the Sears project. But then also with like, I know there's like a new fire station that's coming and like a few new parks that are coming. Is there like a central location where we could see all of that?
The short answer is not really. Okay. Who wants to tackle this one? Mayor Pro Tem Boyle, we'll talk a little bit about marketing and social media in general, and your area of expertise.
We only have 30 minutes. I mean, I've been a huge advocate of just updating our community. A lot of times it's just like, running into us and asking these questions. And that's sometimes what the updates are. And then we reach out to staff saying, hey, I'm getting this question. What is the updates? Because sometimes we don't even know what's coming. So sometimes it's prompting that you might drive in a certain area and you see something new and I don't drive in that area. Yeah. And so a lot of times that prompts that. I saw Jen got up, so I know she's probably going to talk about the Engage website, I'm assuming, or there might be something else she's going to be talking about. So.
Hi, I'm Jen Flackman. I'm the Public Information Officer. So we do have Engage. We have a project site called engage.cityofmerced. And so we're working on updating that so that we can put those types of projects on there. We just engaged with the social media firm. So in February, we'll do some outreach and kind of a refresh of what you'll see on our social media site. So we have a team that will be working together to update projects, services, things like that across our platforms and across our departments.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be awesome, because sometimes going onto Facebook and seeing what people have to say, there's a lot of hearsay, so it'd be good to know what's coming and what's not.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, if I may, please.
Yes, sir.
There is a website called mercedfirst.com, and around this time, because we start prepping for trade shows that we start in February through September, so we'll be updating our materials. But as you walked in earlier today, there was a banner pull up that had a QR code. If you would have scanned that QR code, it would have taken you to some of our marketing materials, and it does illustrate the projects that have come or are on their way. But again, we will be updating those materials and printing them and then getting them posted. I would say probably late February, early March.
Yeah. And just in terms of communicating with close to 100,000 people is obviously a complex thing, and there's a lot of different things the city does in terms of, the notices in the utility bills, our website. There's a Subscribe Merced email list as well. That's really good. There's a lot of updates that can come through that. A lot comes through our social media. So there's a lot of different sources, and in order to communicate with 100,000 people who all communicate and consume information in different ways, we have to engage in dozens and dozens of different tactics. So I'm sure Jennifer could talk to you for days and days about all her efforts and everything she does. But so yeah, it takes a lot of different things, and there's just a lot of bits and pieces of information that are out there. But putting them together is big. All right. Next question. Anybody else? Additional speakers? Okay. So we'll wrap it up. All right, Mr. Remsmer.
Thank you. I'm learning how to push these buttons around here at the different meetings and stuff like that. So anyway, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Keith Ensminger, and I'm a District 2 representative on the Citizens Advisory Committee for helping to develop the general plan and stuff like that. Please let Shane know that I'm not shadowing him all the time since I'm coming to all the meetings, but just want to learn and hear from the community. I wanted to talk about the high-speed rail movement. Shane mentioned that Mr. Whippy kind of gave us a take it or leave it type of proposal on Monday night. And you had talked about trying to engage with community to see about their plans. Fu, you talked about that quite a bit through community meetings like this. I mentioned a survey that UC Merced had put out, 2 surveys actually, one that they've already put out and another they're going to put out. The first one, I just got a draft of that. They surveyed about 500 people. They recruited and surveyed about 500 people in centrist tracts in downtown Merced on the north and the south side of Merced about high-speed rail and their hopes and dreams for what it could do for the community. And there was a wealth of information that they got from there about jobs, infrastructure, all of the things that you talked about on Monday night that's important for us to engage with high-speed rail and make sure they help make us whole with a new train station in that area. It's important to remember, I think, that community meetings like this are primarily anecdotal from people who have a chance to come out and see us and talk to us. The types of surveys that UC runs are much different. They're really focused. They recruit, like I said, up to 500 people for this. They're developing another survey that's going to be in Merced and can probably, I'll encourage them to include new information about the developments with high-speed rail to see what the community thinks about having the station down by Campus Parkway and stuff. The principals that there at the Labor Center, the director of the Labor Center talked a little bit about it on Monday night during the high-speed rail meeting. And when I talked with people there, they'd like to know what kind of timeline we're working with so that they can help develop a survey citywide to get a feel not only on what the community would like as far as development in the city, but also to include now what they would like to see with the new high-speed rail station at that location. So any help you could give me to send to them or to contact them, I think is really important, because they're a wonderful resource here in the community, and we need to make sure we are deeply engaged with UC Merced. They have we have a tremendous opportunity to work with them. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Comments from council or the staff? No additional speakers. Want to thank you all for tonight. Small group, but a really great group and a lot of great expertise and questions, and hope we're able to answer them as best we can. As always, we appreciate your input, and it certainly, more than you know, it guides us in terms of what we're doing and what we prioritize. So we'll move to closing comments from council. We'll start on my left with Councilmember Tao.
Well, thank you for coming out tonight, and your voice, your concerns, and your opinion and your idea does matters, and your voice matters as to help us improve the city of Merced. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you for coming out. And just remember that you get to contact us more than just once a year. We're on the web, we have email, voicemail, come to council meetings. We're love to talk to you, love to hear what you have to say. We learn something every time. You know, we learned something tonight about different things that we didn't know that was going on, and it's productive because we could actually do things. Some things we can't, but a lot of things we can do, and we're happy to do it. So don't be afraid of contacting us.
Thank you for everyone for being here, taking time out of your day to join us. I think one thing that we've heard repeatedly throughout these past 3 town halls have been sidewalks, streets, code enforcement, and I think those should really play a big role in our goals and priorities setting in the upcoming weeks. And so, again, appreciate folks being here and taking time to share what their concerns are.
Thank you for coming out tonight. You know, we work in a really reactionary way sometimes, so we don't always know what the issues of the city is. We can't be everywhere all the time. So it's really helpful to hear from constituents and citizens of the city to know where we can improve and become better. This is only really the first portion of how we begin our budget process. Now we go into goals and priorities and strategic planning session at the end of the month on January 31st, which is a public meeting, and welcome to have comments and discussion there as well. And then that just sets us up for further discussion on budget. So this is not the last time, it's kind of the beginning of where we're going for the year. So thank you again for coming out.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out tonight, and also those that came to the previous 2 town halls, those that are online as well. I'm hoping that if we didn't answer your questions, at least you got some wealth of information. I look forward to our strategic planning on January 31st, and hopefully we can come up with some solutions.
Again, thank you all for being here. You guys are our eyes and ears. We represent you, and we just encourage everybody too to continue being leaders in this town too, and making a positive impact. So thank you again, and with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.